Welcome back to another episode of the Dojo Media Show. I'm Raphael and this is Logan. And today's guest is Jenae Tien from Expand Your Library.
Hey guys.
Hey, how are you going?
Good, how are you?
Good,
Very good, very good.
Can you tell us a bit about what Expand Your Library is?
Ooh-wee. That should be a simple question, but
Where do you start?
where do you start, right? So, Expand Your Library essentially now is a social enterprise where we activate allyship and interrupt cultural stereotypes within the education system. We talk about what it means to be an ally and celebrating cultural differences, but it all started with me just sharing inclusive books and resources because I didn't see any 10 years ago that really reflected my little ones when I became a mom. And so talking with other parents and educators and the need and want for these inclusive resources, I went searching for them, and obviously they're out there, but they're not always readily available. Mm-hmm. So I just jumped on Instagram and started sharing books, and I also started sharing the books with parents and teachers, and that's kind of how this little thing grew, all about inclusive books. And it's expanded, mind the pun, from there.
Yeah, Expand Your Library really just sums it up straight away.
That's it.
Make your library bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
What were the sort of books kids were reading and not getting enough of in households? Well,
I don't have the specifics. My working memory of what I did 10 minutes ago is horrible. But the books that we were seeing were like just not reflective of my kids. And an array of different stories showing, lots of different multicultural stories and First Nation stories. Yeah. So I wanted my kids to feel like that they could open up the pages, see themselves reflected, and also learn about other people. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much how it all stemmed. But I started getting asked to come into schools and to talk to schools about, well, where do you find these resources, and start doing story time and things like that. And that's kind of where the idea for doing workshops in schools was inspired. So we do workshops as well and shows.
Were there like specific stories, like go-to ones that you had in the early days, 2 or 3, or you were just always literally expanding that library and just making it accessible to any genre, any kind of kid that was interested in anything?
Look, I can go into bookstores or libraries or even secondhand stores, and I'm constantly looking. Sometimes I look for the visuals first because that's what kids really are drawn to, and then I go and read the story to make sure that it's like appropriate or makes sense. But the specifics of book didn't really matter as long as the genre was appropriate, inclusive, and showed an array of stories.
Are there a lot of stories that aren't appropriate out there?
I don't know if it's inappropriate, but I guess it's more so that the story might be like stereotypical. So there's a lot of books out there at the moment where there's, the black boy who has big emotions and gets angry, or the big emotions, he's really sad and depressed. And it's like, where are the stories where the black boy is happy and joyous? Right. There are also stories where I also try to look for authors who have lived experience of the stories that they're talking about, so that it's not just slapping in a character from some culture that you have no idea about whether you're representing them accurately. That's not to say that you have to be specifically from a certain culture to include lots of different cultures, but I think it does aid as an important tool to have some lived experience or some engagement with the communities that you're trying to represent. Yeah.
I think that's interesting because most people probably don't think too deeply into what books they're getting their kid. They're just like, this looks fun. My kid's going to like this. It's not about like what's the exact message, like the cultural side of it.
I know it's something like, to be blunt, like we don't think about it, but I've even heard as late as, or as recent as Shang-Chi coming out. Like I know a lot of Asian kids specifically were like, holy shit, we've never seen an Asian superhero before. Absolutely. And they were like, every superhero we saw when we were a kid was Superman, was Spider-Man, like white guys. Yeah. So like
if anything, it's more relevant now than ever. Now it's been talked about.
But I'm just saying, I think it must have been whether it was not a conversation on the forefront of people's minds. Kids were obviously thinking about it, and maybe just not brave enough to open the conversation because it was to their white friends, or just because they thought it was the way it was always going to be, kind of thing. So I think it's always been thought about. It's great to raise the conversation though, and it's great that things are changing, like movies are coming out with more diversity. So that's what makes me want to ask, like, why was it books specifically for you? Is that where you got a lot of your imagination and your drive as a kid yourself? Or?
Well, funnily enough, my mom is an absolute bookworm and always read books, and I actually absolutely hated reading books. But I think as I've gotten older, a lot of the books, they never represented me. They weren't relevant to me. The books that were like relevant to me were about slavery or, you know, being used as an example in school about discrimination. And it's like, oh, Jenae, tell us your experience. And it's like, and I've got to be an educator at 12 about racism. So I never really found that kind of excitement, but my mom did a really good job to make sure that she was exposing me to authors and poets that were from my culture, like Langston Hughes is African American and he does beautiful poetry, and so there was always that tinkering in the back of my mind. So I think as I became older, I realized the importance of having books that reflect you and the world. It's like the mirrors, windows and sliding doors. So the mirrors is the concept that you see yourself, and the sliding doors is that you can go into another world and experience it with others. And windows is that you get to see into someone else's life and learn about someone else's culture or story. Yeah.
And how were you learning for the most? So it was like books and poems. How else were you learning as a kid?
About like cultural diversity or... Listen, I grew up in a really small town where a lot of people didn't look like me. So, you know, I'm African American and Australian. I grew up in a small town in Australia and would, you know, see my African American side of the family would go back and forth or whatever, but not as much as I would like. So the way that I'd learn about my culture was probably when I went to university over there and I sat in a Black history class and really got to really dive into my culture more, obviously family and friends, but there was none of that happening when I went to school. They were barely teaching about First Nation history, so let alone other people's cultures. So other than my mom, who would try to get me books, that was pretty much the extent of... Oh, and music, obviously.
Yeah. So how did it feel when you were sort of asked to be essentially a window, I suppose, when you were to go into these schools? Like, dive into that a little bit. How did that feel? How did that actually come about as well? And sort of what are the responses that you've had to that?
Funnily enough, I don't think I thought very deeply about it. I was like, I'm just going to do a workshop and we're going to like have fun. And then when I went in there and you realize the responsibility that you have in front of...
what age kids?
So when I first started, mainly we do early years learning. So that's 3 to 5 years old, the real foundational years of children's development. The first workshop, I think, was an absolute mess. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no kids' attention. I'm like, guys, listening? Hey, everyone. Like, it just was not working. No one cared. No one cared. And I pretty much cried in my car for 20 minutes before I drove back home being like, what am I doing?
What went wrong in hindsight?
Well, I think because I'm not a teacher and I'm like, well, I've got this great idea and we're going to teach about it and they're going to listen. And the kids listen, but you have to have a certain skill and presence and energy when you're working with children, especially with a lot of children.
Keep them engaged.
Got to keep them engaged, absolutely.
Have to have games and acting. And
well, and I literally, the way my workshop used to be, I would sit down and I'd be like, okay, everyone. And I would try to have this big, long speech and the kids are like, well, what are we doing? Yeah. So then I really had to think, how can I use play-based initiatives to make it fun and exciting, which is what I want. Like, you shouldn't be scared to talk about cultural diversity and allyship. It should be fun. Yeah. But I didn't have the skills to be able to do that. So, yeah, it turned into a monologue, like a keynote speech, which is what I'm used to, and turned into like my version of Play School or Sesame Street, where I turned it with songs and role play and being silly and that magic and mystery that kids love.
Yeah. Got the pleasure of filming a few of these theatre shows, as I call them. And yeah, I think the kids really love it. Like, you get them to put their hands out and look at the differences, stuff that kids... Are they thinking about that already or not at all?
About cultural diversity?
Yeah.
I don't think they're like
just
consciously, but subconsciously, absolutely. And I think what was really interesting for me is that like babies can notice differences of race from 3 to 6 months old, which is completely wild to think about. But of course, they're taking in information from the world. So then bias plays out from 5 years old. And people go, oh no, kids don't see color and culture and they just play with everyone. Yeah, they do. They're curious beings. But you get the odd comment here or there where they're choosing how to play with a child or not playing with a child. And the way that they see themselves, like their self-concept is developed in those early years. So self-concept is really developed on how other people perceive you. And so you may be happy and the kid looks happy, but really there's a subconscious feeling that they're not good enough if they're not seeing themselves in the books and resources, or their culture's not celebrated, or if there's negativity around their culture. So they're not I don't think have the tools to really verbalize that they're thinking about this, but subconsciously they're taking in all this information, which is amounting to how they think about themselves. So one of the workshops, I got all the kids to come in and we were whispering and I was like, guess what? There's only one of you. And we were talking about skin tone and melanin and all these concepts. And they were like, mind blown. Like me, I'm the only one. And that we're talking about skin and someone's like, I'm brown and I'm beige. And it was hilarious because it's like they're finding their own words to, and then they're really looking at their peers and going, wow, that's really cool. I love your eyes. I love your hair. And that deep connection is like so important for like self-belonging and knowing your place in the world.
And it's race, and then also other things like neurodivergent kids.
Neurodiversity for sure. So in the beginning I was trying to be everything to everyone because that's how I feel. I feel like everybody, no matter what ability, identity.
We were actually discussing this. Is allyship the term specifically for like race or culture, or it's everything, like sexuality?
Everything. You can be an ally to anyone.
Yeah,
you can be an ally just to your neighbor, just being a good friend and helping. I think people try to put certain words like allyship with certain marginalized groups, but to me, and from the research I've done, you're an ally. You're an ally to just being a good human.
You never treat someone differently based on their looks or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so in the beginning, I was trying to be everything to everyone and be like teaching on all these different concepts. But children need time and space to learn about a concept. And my lived experience is cultural diversity. And I do believe it's very important to have leaders with lived experience teaching about the specifics of each group. Otherwise, you can definitely get it wrong. So why I don't shy away from talking about other groups. And on my EYL page, you'll see book suggestions on all different topics. But when I go into schools, I'm specifically talking about cultural diversity because that's my lived experience. So it just makes more sense so that I'm making sure I'm accurately, just representing the community.
Yep. And that way you're also not like throwing 4 different big ideas at kids and they're confusing it with each other kind of thing. And then, so what have you found are some successful ways to introduce such big, broad ideas to children?
Play, which is what I was the complete opposite to what I did before. But play, kids learn in the early stages of their lives through play. And, you have to make it fun. You have to make it engaging. So, and obviously big visuals. If you want to talk about neurodiversity, making sure that you're explaining things in lots of different accessible ways. So you're not just verbally speaking. You might have visuals to add that. And then you might have things that they can tangibly play and pick up with so that they're learning in the way that best for them. But yeah, we teach through song, role play, which is a big one because then kids can not only see you acting out a scenario, but then they can go role play with their friends on different scenarios and test it out, use the language. Visuals. What
sort of comments do you hear kids come up with? Any interesting examples?
About like allyship? Or?
Yeah, about all these topics and stuff that they haven't really discussed with their friends before.
Well, it's interesting because when we do workshops, sometimes we film at the end, and the first few that we did, just to see whether we were hitting the nail on the head, we would get their parents' consent and film and say, what does it mean to be an ally? What does diversity mean? What does inclusion mean? And, a 30-minute workshop, they're saying things like, well, an ally to me is you share your toys and you're kind to everyone. And no matter what, you're just kind. Like they just get it instantly. But you have to keep on keeping on with children because unfortunately it's the adults in their lives and in children's lives that can undo all of that great learning from one comment or some bias that comes through or like, oh, that group or that
That's
thing.
What I've always thought. Like when you look at a person, a grown up, they're not like born racist. No one's ever born thinking they're better than someone else. It's just something you learn from, usually from parents quite often. Yeah. Unfortunately, you just see subtle things. The way they treat other people.
Which can lead to falling into wrong social groups as well. But
that's absolutely
crazy conversation in itself.
Yes, absolutely.
But no, I think it's for listeners actually. One of our previous guests very well, lovely CJ.
More than
CJ
well.
Lightning.
That guy.
What you were saying just then, you were saying parents can get in their kids' way essentially, and CJ was sort of talking about it in a bit more of a different way, sort of pushing a kid away from creativity or something like that. So what's it like having a partner that is also so on the same wavelength when it comes to this? And has that made it so much easier raising a family in that kind of scenario?
Well, you also do your theatre shows together.
So my husband, I've made CJ do the shows with me, and everybody actually loves him more than me. I'm like the boring lady who's like allyship, and he's like, but CJ, the big guy with the big afro.
He's like a big teddy bear.
He is. And he's like, hey, everyone. And everyone's like, it's CJ. So they love him. I think absolutely it's made things a lot easier for us. Even if we don't necessarily agree straight away on something, we've got a really good way of communicating and chatting and kind of breaking it down. I think we both understand that sense of not feeling like you belong and that the cultural differences. And so that's something that we've really been able to kind of click on. And absolutely it makes a huge difference to wanting to make sure you advocate for your kid and support your kid, but then also become adults or big people in the community that other kids can feel safe to know that, you know, we're cheering you on too.
But do your kids motivate you to go even harder with this?
Absolutely.
To spread it even more, yeah.
My kids are everything when it comes to this. And actually the reason why we have an educational resource, Deck of Diversity, shameless plug, is because of my daughter. So when she was 3, she experienced from another child negative comments about her skin. And you would have thought, like, you know, the black girl has got this conversation on lock, but I actually had, I like choked. I had no idea how to handle it. I didn't realize it was going to come so early. I didn't do...
That is very young.
Well, I didn't know how to even like help my kid and the other kid to, like, it's a learning opportunity, right? And so, yeah, my daughter is the reason why I created the resource, so you can have something tangible and visual to talk about it. But, you know, that really... My daughter at 3 would tell me, Mom, I don't like my skin. I don't like my hair. I don't want to be someone else. And this is like a 3-year-old. So it really does matter to not only have the conversations before something happens, but to have the tools to continue to advocate and uplift them. And absolutely, I go hard for my kids so that they know that in this world, whatever room they walk in, they're allowed to be there. They're meant to be there. Yep. Education, success, career, whatever. And your cultural background or the way your brain works or any other facet of diversity shouldn't matter, even though sometimes society may tell you it does. So, you know, it's just been a difficult journey, but it's something that's really helped build our kids up. And for sure, my daughter will tell you where it's at. She's like, I am that girl. Like, she's confident, you know. And same with my son. They're like, okay, and I love my hair. You don't like my hair? Okay, and or whatever. So it's really helped us as a family, I think, to grow as well.
So, and what kind of internal conversations do you have, I suppose, about what you need to be teaching your kids and the kids that you're teaching as well? Like, are you and CJ quite, I suppose, critical, maybe the wrong word, but critical with each other and what does need to be, like, what messages need to be pushed across and that kind of thing? And then, like, more specifically with that, how do you decide what is the best way and the best thing to introduce to a kid?
It's interesting because I think when we do stuff in workshops, I'm very calculated on how I'm very cautious that I'm with someone else's child. They're a precious human being and I don't want to do any damage. So I'm very calculated. But with my kids, I feel like sometimes things aren't planned and I'm like,
can be the guinea pig.
Yeah. Well, it's more like, I don't know if this is the right way to roll this out. Sometimes we have those beautiful moments where we're like, you know, it's all planned and we're having a family chat. And other times I'm like, no, you need to understand this. You need to know that if you act out this way, you can't do that the same way your friends can. And sometimes it's a bit more of an intense conversation and it doesn't roll off the tongue beautifully and poetic, but it's like, it's that balance. Also, CJ and I sometimes struggle with the way we were raised and the experiences that we had. Like CJ's parents were like, you know, you're a black man in America. And, you know, my mom is wonderful, but I was mainly raised in Australia. So she never talked about race. And it wasn't until, you know, incidents would happen, which I can talk about, that it was like, oh, maybe it's to do with race, or maybe that's just, you know, wrong place, wrong time. Or so.
Were you always curious to find out more
about my culture?
Yeah, your own identity.
Yeah, I think
I think some people just like think they're Australian, like just make friends with Australians and That's it.
I don't think I was ever like, I'm not Australian, but I think I definitely was like, I'm a black kid here and nobody looks like me, and I'm going to go straighten the heck out of my hair and have blonde hair and just try to be not me. Yeah. Like literally 17 was the first time I really truly had curly hair. And when I went back to America for a gap year, that turned into 7. And I washed my hair and I just like left it and I was like, oh. And my stepmom had all these hair products and we just played around and brought my hair back to health. And like, it sounds ridiculous, but it's a very big moment because it was a part of me that was actually coming to.
It.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Even my mum had a similar experience. She used to always straighten her hair and has very curly hair. Like, so freeing the first time she started doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it must be weird to conceal something that is so naturally you for so long as well. So yeah, letting that go must be amazing. Yeah. There's one more thing I want to ask about kids there before we get a little bit deeper into your story, and that's, can these big ideas always be conveyed to a kid? Like if they don't understand it on the first go, is it a matter of maybe you haven't explained it in the most simple way, or maybe they just don't actually have the capacity yet?
I think every child's so different, but it's like water dripping. You just have to each day, every day, all day, be finding opportunities to get those little messages in. Yep. Or like with my kids, we do affirmations. They know when we hit the roundabout before our school, they turn the music down. They're like, here we go. I'm kind. I'm this. I'm strong. Like, so whatever it is for your family, absolutely. It's never a one and done conversation. It's not a tick and flick like, oh, we've done race. Cool. Like it's definitely something that as things happen in life, you'll have to expand your conversation and address certain things in a more intense way. But then in your everyday, you might just find little opportunities to naturally embed it into your
kind of life. Like anytime someone hands a child something, you say, like, what do you say? And they go, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's every day.
As long as I can remember my mum, probably for the first 15 years of my life, would be like, what do you say? So now I think I have good manners.
Absolutely. And you think, oh my God, it's not working. But then a year will go by and all of a sudden you'll hear like the kids talking. I'll hear my kids talking. I'm like, oh, yes, they got it. So you just have to keep going. For sure not a one-time convo.
Are we able to have a quick little look at these cards?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Okay, so look, this may get a little bit weird, but I have a deck of diversity gift for you, Logan. Raf, it's not because I don't love you. I've already given you a deck, and I hope that you enjoy them.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember? No. I promise. Everyone, I have given Raf.
No, they're really great.
But this is for you. This is deck
of
diversity.
I can vouch for these cards.
Oh wow, they're still fresh and plastic and everything.
Yeah, so I've got it. I've got one you can tear open. Let me get it really.
Should we all read one out?
Yeah, we can all pick a card. And here, I'll just do this. You pick a card. I'm not doing a very good job of displaying.
Just grab that one.
Go on.
Now I'm nervous. Thank you.
Okay.
So, depending which card you have, it might be...
Do you want to explain the idea, or do we just get right into it?
Yeah, for sure. So these are large flashcards. They're very durable because kids, they get into materials. So we wanted something that was a bit thick and durable.
Yeah, these are really thick, like...
This is not a traditional
flashcard.
Twice
the thickness of like a puzzle piece kind of thing?
Yeah, it's not a traditional flashcard for sure. It's not flimsy or, I wanted them to be that if, for instance, you were a teacher, you can put them up in your classroom as a visual, or at home you can... It depends on the age of the child, right? If they're not ready to be reading, self-guiding through this stuff, you can have the visuals and you might find your own wording to kind of start talking about these things. But yeah, on the back there's an explanation for each card or questions for some of them. There's also 2 extra bonus cards with affirmations, so your kids can say their own affirmations. And it also has a teacher's pack, so this you can buy it individually. But we also have a teacher's pack because I want to make it easy for teachers to incorporate this in their curriculum. So there's lesson plans and printouts and all the things. So it's removing the fear and making it fun.
Nice. It's great. I actually saw a packet of this in a bookshop in West End the other day.
Yay!
I was like, my friend over here is very famous.
Nice.
Yeah, so you got it in a few shops?
Yeah, we're in been so incredibly grateful for the support here in Brisbane, some of the local bookstores. We're in a couple of bookstores across Australia as well, only a few. We're getting there. And then we're in some schools across Queensland as well as a resource. But yeah, absolutely. The support here, like we launched at Where the Wild Things Are bookstore, and please go there. It's such an amazing bookstore that has so many inclusive books. And we did the launch there, and it's just been incredible. I also advocate for going to the library. I'm not saying you always have to buy books, or secondhand stores are really great too.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just walk in and the smell. Like, you just smell all the fresh pages.
Yeah, I love the smell of books.
This is a different thing. Like,
I thought it was just me. I love the smell of books.
Even like, I'm not the biggest book nerd. Like, I like books, but I wouldn't consider myself a book nerd.
Yeah.
But definitely you can walk into a store and you can smell it and be like,
smell this fresh pages.
Yeah, you don't get this anywhere else.
Yeah.
But
I just get inspired walking into bookshops. So much knowledge everywhere.
Exactly. I feel smarter just being in here.
I've seen a funny meme, actually. This is totally irrelevant, but it's like a picture of a guy and he's got like plastic latex over his head to make his brain look a little bit bigger. And he's like, I'm going and hiring out 10 books a day and then returning them and making his head slightly bigger until they say something. Imagine that. But anyway, I want to read this card quickly to get an idea. So the title here, Humility. Humility is all about how you treat other people and how you can be a big part of making others feel special, happy, or even safe. You might be running a race and want them to win, but then you see your friend fall over and hurt themselves. One way you can show humility is to help your friend up and see if they are okay. You might not win the race, but you can finish the race with your friend and feel good knowing that they are okay and supported.
Amen.
Great lessons. What's your one?
My one is inclusion. When you practice inclusion, you activate your superpower to make others feel welcome, safe, and a part of the group. When people feel like they belong, it helps encourage them to embrace who they are because they know they will be accepted by their peers. How have you practiced inclusion today?
You want to answer that, Raph?
How have I practiced inclusion today? I'm not sure. Spoke to Logan. So.
That's good.
Yeah,
open communication. Nice.
Included him in the conversation.
I've had a pretty just low-key day. I've been like pretty in my own world, so I don't know if I've really until this afternoon.
We've included me, so
yeah, we've included you. Yeah, but we can explain the picture. Do you want to?
Yeah, so each picture is just, an example of what inclusion might look like. So it's welcoming the new student into class, and humility is helping a friend up. And yeah, just kind of...
Who helped you out with these illustrations?
Okay, so, oh my gosh, can we just give a shout out to my girl? So my drawing abilities like stick people.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, okay, well, this is going to be pretty boring flashcards. But then I found a wonderful lady called DC Rama Laba. Can you see? I don't know if I'm on camera.
Yeah.
If you can see her. And so she is from Togo in West Africa. She lives in America now. And I haven't met her in person. I hope to one day embrace her because she's been so amazing. She illustrated. I pretty much sent her a Word doc with ideas. Okay, for A, I was thinking a person walking in this color and that no normal human being could understand my notes, and she was able to brought it to life. So I really, really, really appreciate her. Go check her out on Instagram.
How do you go with the fun letters like X and all that?
Oh, well, let's have a look at what X is. It's X-ray. But the reason why I picked X-ray is because I think it's pretty obvious for children to be able to see that we're all the same on the inside to kind of really make that an obvious concept. So that's how we did that.
So at the end of the day, we've got all these differences you talk about, and then you finish it off with that we're all the same.
Well, so we're all the same on the inside. We're different on the outside. And we have one of those songs we sing at diversity. I could probably teach you if you want to sing it. But
can you sing?
No, I'm nervous. But it talks about being on the outside. Yeah. We all look different on the inside. We're all the same. Hey. And it's true.
Class going.
Yeah, it really does. Today we're going to do a workshop. And I think it's important for kids to understand, yes, obviously we're all very different, the way we think, the way we speak, what we look like. But if you're treating someone based off of that on the inside, we literally have a beating heart, muscles, it's all the same on the inside, really. So it's we're all human. And that's my way of kind of getting to understand we're all human, we're all people, and we all deserve respect and kindness.
This is great.
What kind of other multimedia / book-related things have you made or planning on making?
Well, that's a very interesting question. So, Deck of Diversity, and we have a teacher's pack. But there may be a little project. I don't know if you've heard of Allies and Friends.
Never heard of it.
A little something.
Allies and Friends is going to be the next thing that Expand Your Library will be making and collaborating with ABC Kids Education.
That's
and
amazing.
That's going to be a full-blown... I mean, you guys, this is the team. So these are the videographers for the team. So just like a little sneaky announcement. But it's... so I'm preaching to the choir, you already know. But for the listeners... It's going to be an educational resource. Same again, working with schools for the early years learning sector. So it'll be video resources and written resources, ways for teachers to kind of play the video for the kids and then follow on with activities and learning, self-development for them, but also activities for the kids. So it's going to be really fun.
And we know that things like Play School were obviously inspirations to you, but at what point in your journey did you realize this was a tangible thing that you should go for and that they might actually be attracted in?
I think after each workshop, I have educators say to me like, wow, like, thanks for that. I don't feel nervous or scared. I have language for this. The kids have been talking about being ally superheroes all week. It's been really fun. At the end of the day, I know what I experienced as a child and I know what my children are currently experiencing, and it's just something we just need to get it together. So I didn't actually know whether they were going to be into it. I feel I'm passionate about it and I think it's important. But actually we're right on trend. I think Australia especially is ready for the conversation. There's lots happening already in the First Nation space. At the end of the day, Australia is very multicultural, and that whole cohesion thing hasn't really been kind of tackled in the early years learning sector. So when they were into it, it was a big, happy dance, but I didn't know, but I just wanted to take a chance.
We've spoken to people that are like working on diversity kind of with older age groups in high schools and unis. We've had people on in that area, but not really in early learning. Like, that's very rare.
For sure. And for me, the damage is done. Like, I'm already a broken human by 17.
saving the next generation.
I didn't want to use the words "it's too late" by then, but it's like a lot of the mindset and ideology is already sort of ingrained to a lot of people by that age. Not that it can't be changed.
Absolutely.
But it's better to what's the word? Better to prevent it than to
prevent. Yeah, absolutely. Preventative. Well, not preventive medicine, but pretty much. Like
trying to prevent negativity.
If anything,
Exactly.
I see this as more something like you'd see in America than here.
Yeah.
But,
and like definitely like when we went even just to Target, the books in the stores are so diverse. Like for my, personally for our culture, African American culture, like there were so many stories of black and brown stories. However, there's also book bans happening that are beautiful, crucial books in America are banned from being used in schools because it's dividing the country, when really that's once again putting certain communities' stories to the back.
Yeah.
So it's just like we go two steps forward and one step back, and it's devastating. So if I can make at least one child know that they belong and change in their early years of foundation, their mindset or their self-concept, for sure I feel
I think
happy.
you'll change a whole generation.
I'm going to save the world.
Well, I mean, look, I think the amazing thing about what's going to happen is Jenae and Expand Your Library, well, the workshop, the theatre show, the Broadway show,
The Broadway show, apparently.
You can only be in one classroom at once, but this video we can have playing in thousands of classrooms.
Definitely.
Maybe not even, it doesn't need to be Australian only at all.
Yeah.
Like, it can be, the messages you're trying to say, you're trying to push aren't just in Australia. Like, they're relevant everywhere. So
Yeah.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
World domination, right?
That's it.
Domination,
That's it.
domination.
You got to dream big.
Yeah, so do you want to talk a bit about the process of this, when we're going to start?
And when I get a t-shirt.
When
Look,
Logan
oh
gets
my
a
gosh,
t-shirt.
so many sore points. I've obviously done the partnership so wrong. I gave the deck to Raf first, and I gave the
I get
shirt to
everything
Raf
late.
first. I'm sorry, I didn't even know you existed till like 2 days for the shoot. And he's like, "Oh, my friend's coming along, who's my partner." I'm like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah.
Dang it, I don't have a shirt.
Yeah. Well, you didn't know
okay.
what size he was. You didn't
Yeah.
know
This
if he
is
was a
true.
small kid or
Yeah.
big guy.
Yeah, it could have been anybody.
Could have been
I could have
anybody.
been CJ, and then it would have been giant.
Yeah.
Oh, the process. Yeah. So it's been like almost
Yeah.
half a year or maybe longer trying to get the idea, back and forth, the research phase of putting it all together. It's one thing that I do this already in schools, but then having to translate it to an organization to make sure that editorially it makes sense and to their audience and all the things. So we worked a lot with academics as well, trying to ensure that it aligns with the research that is out there and research that isn't out there, and trying to fill the gaps and opportunities.
Am I also wrong in saying that you initially were working with a slightly higher age bracket, and that for this you were asked to come down a couple years?
Yeah, absolutely. So we originally pitched for primary school, and really great, but like you said before, it's almost like too late. We want to get them before they go to school, and so we were asked to bring it down and to kind of reconfigure it for early years learning. And you would think that'd be easy because I kind of do that in schools, but it was actually quite difficult in the sense of really trying to make sure that each video or each blog really does match what's happening through play-based initiatives and how we can make an impact in schools. So from me not being presently in front of the kids.
You could always follow on after to older age groups that missed out on this.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the idea, and fingers crossed, we just keep going and going and going. But for now it's early years learning. So yeah.
It's great.
But yeah, the process, I don't know, like it's just been constant research, consultation, back and forth, negotiation, all that stuff. And we'll hopefully kick off filming in May. Yeah. And then the hustle will be on.
Well, we've already done one little example to show ABC of what we're capable of.
And can I just say, Raph and Logan are amazing, because when we showed the team at ABC Kids Education, and they had some from ABC Kids Television, and they said what we created, but what was really filmed was TV quality and could go on Play School tomorrow. So I just want you to know, we are super appreciative of your expertise and your beautiful vision.
Thank you. It's definitely not easy working with kids. I walked in very naive that day.
Yeah.
I walked in thinking this is going to be easy. I've had a fair bit of experience,
and he was just super positive going in. So I was like, I'll just let him.
Yeah. I was like, they're just going to listen to everything.
Or no, just let him be naively happy about it.
Yeah.
A little part of me was like, well, we haven't met these kids before. It's going to be a bit interesting.
I like the challenge of it. Yeah. I was running after them. And
Please come back.
Where
are you?
Also, it was raining on the day.
Oh, it was on and off raining on the day.
Little drizzle. That didn't really hurt us. Weather's hurt us more.
Sitting under the thing with umbrellas. Can you just say that again?
I only just remembered looking at the footage again.
But I mean, I must say, it looks like it came together, and it looks like they were just nailing it and having the
greatest time. We weren't running around trying to incentivize kids to come back on set.
I have to say, actually, there's one shot of you running with the coloured wall, one of the first shots that we used. Yeah, that's so you. That just sums you up so well.
I think you could even describe that to people listening, just the typical skipping across the frame with kids
There's
in
also
hand.
A cow costume.
Yeah, I had a full get-up of
a
cow onesie, which I just need more of those. That was a really...
I'm actually sad that my kid is too young to be a part of the show.
Surely it's renewed for season 2, 3, 4, 5.
Season 5.
Right?
Season 5. Season 5.
Yes, when she is age appropriate. We can always do a cameo. She could always be in the intro, all the kids in the background.
That would be cool.
Walking around.
Maybe you could even get to the point. You said that kids realize differences between 3 to 6 months. Maybe we could have some little experiments from age 2 kind of thing.
For real. That'd be amazing.
She's been around a lot of different cultures already, so who knows? But I was just going to say, I said briefly on CJ's, but I was actually originally friends with him and asking him to do some filming, and then he introduced me to you, and I filmed the play. But
the Broadway play, the Broadway show.
The Broadway show. But I was just going to say, we really love working with different cultures and different backgrounds. So this is also really in line with a lot of our values and a lot of the messages we want to share with the world.
And we like telling stories too. And it's you're also telling stories you're telling stories because they're kids, but you're telling your story through a more playful way, as you've said. It's less on the nose, and that's something that I really like about it.
Yeah.
So thanks for having us be a part of it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's really important for me to work with people who care and who are aligned. And so, I think when CJ introduced me to you, and then you introduced me to Logan, and just kind of all mixes and makes sense. We met Alana. So Alana is the co-producer as well. Shout out Alana. Woo woo. And she's amazing. And it makes work easier when you're working with people who get it and who want to see the greater good.
Yeah.
Especially when you work with kids.
Within me, it makes me really want the product to be awesome. Like, that's why I believe it kind of did turn out good, and that hopefully ABC did say that about us.
No, they did.
Because, like,
Scalp
I'm
honor.
not saying you're lying, but like, yeah, I mean, it's we have a bit more pride in it when it's something that we can be passionate about too. So it's awesome that we can approach it from that angle too. Of like, we want this to be as good as it can be for more than just our name being attached to it. You know?
And you're shooting some music videos of kids, so that might be our new niche. Filming kids.
I'm starting to work with kids again.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we just did the pilot. We've got 5 episodes to get through. We might be needing therapy at the end.
Nah, these ones were like 10, 11, and 12. Shout out the
At least there's no animals. Is there going to be animals halfway?
Who is this?
Are there going to be
They say the 2 hardest things are kids and animals.
Oh, kids and animals. I might bring some dogs on set. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Make it more fun.
The first episode is like teaching kids about the diversity in dogs. Like, so these are the different breeds. We've got 20 dogs with us today.
Can you imagine? Oh my god.
I actually think cows are a good example because they're like mixed black and white.
I wore a cow suit one time. It was overalls, guys. It wasn't a suit.
Yeah. When I think of you, I don't think of cows. That's a random thing.
Yeah, we're also going to talk about some keynote speeches that you've done. Is that right? You're a bit of a public speaker too?
Look, it's actually really strange for me because I've worked in media for almost 6 years, but I'm the interviewer. So, like, I'm usually you guys, the couch position has changed. It's very strange when I'm being interviewed. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm very awkward and I hate answering questions. So it's been something that, I've been doing some personal development with. But I was a part of the Impact Boom Female Founders Accelerator Program, which is supported by Advance Queensland, for Expand Your Library to kind of work on the business and get those foundations set up. And at the end, you had like a pitch night where you spoke to an audience, whatever. And I got People's Choice, which is exciting.
That's
great. And other than that, just I'm doing some more workshops and working with organizations around diversity. And I've got another workshop. I'm heading back to my hometown in Bundaberg. And
Bundy, shout out to Bundy.
And I'll be doing a workshop there. So, yeah.
That's great. How does it feel to go back to that town that's still not the most multicultural place?
Well, people will say it is. And I think it has gotten a lot more multicultural over the years, for sure. Do I want more? Always. I'm always wanting more cultural diversity. But it's definitely, there's a lot more pathways into regional in the workforce there, and they're really trying to encourage people to move out into the regions. For me, going back there, it's kind of like a full circle moment because that's where the foundation was laid, and to be asked to come and that's where the trauma was. I do love Bundaberg, but there's a lot of things that happened. But that's where I feel like I can make a difference for the next young one or for within organizations because I know what it's like. For me, what it was like growing up there. So,
That's great.
And what kind of scope do you have with spreading this message? So you're talking to the public sector now. Like, what kind of potential things do you think are going to come out of that?
Well, I hope some more contracts to work with orgs for a longer period of time. It's kind of similar to when we were talking about teaching kids about this stuff and having the one-time combo. Like, it's more than that. You've got to work with an organization for a period of time. You've got to see that growth and analyze yourself and go back over different things. And it's more than me standing up for an hour or for, a full day teaching this stuff. It's really got to go into like a deep analyzation of the whole structure within the system within an organization. So I hope that, there'll be continued work that will come from that we can continue to develop organizations.
Anything really in particular, or are you just going to see what happens, how it goes?
Like, no, I mean, for me, I'm always where the opportunities are. My focus right now is allies and friends, but always love to work with orgs, but I want to focus on the next generation as well, the younger ones.
How do you, for I guess, organizations and older people, what are some practices, like outside of potentially flashcards and even the questions that are on flashcards saying, how have you been inclusive today? What kind of practices can you implement in daily life to sort of regurgitate this message?
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised how much of the play-based initiative stuff can actually be transferred over into organizations. So I think
adults have just as much fun playing as kids.
100%. We need to look at things. We need to touch things. We need to jump around and be silly. And you know, you see those conferences and people are dancing around and you're like, oh, how corny. But when you're in it, you're like, you're in it.
At those motivational events.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been to like conferences with people that like make so much money. And there was one where their thing was the poo dance, and it's like this big stupid like look like you're doing a poo thing, and it was like the most like white collar people doing this.
I
stuff.
saw there was one where they like scream out animal noises, and I was like 17. I was like,
but isn't that scary to think that a whole room of people will just do whatever the presenter will say? That's literally, but it's fun. But that's literally what happens in orgs. So if your leader is not leading equitably or inclusively, then unfortunately, depending on obviously your own morals, but it's easy for other.
Whoa, that's so deep. That's so true.
Do you know what I mean?
They
Others
might
follow.
not tell you to like walk out on the street and say something racist to someone, but if they say something that has a racist undertone, it's just as likely to go through everyone in that room.
Yeah. You either will speak up or you'll feel uncomfortable and you won't say anything, or you're trying to impress your boss. Like I know when I first went into the media industry, I literally would do any job because I wanted to move up. I wanted to learn. I wanted to be seen and recognized. And if I didn't have the right guidance, then like who knows what my attitudes would have been to continue to move up. And I have seen people lose their way a little bit. So it's like so relevant. I won't get people to do the poo dance though, or whatever that is.
It was just
you like that one?
It's just an example.
Are you going to demonstrate?
You can get a room of people to do anything.
Yeah.
Well, how do cults exist?
Yeah,
they
very
get
true.
people to do crazy things.
Probably crazier dances, but anyway.
Well, I did nursing for a month, so if you pass out, I'll help you. Well, actually, funnily enough, there's a story to that. I was doing nursing. I just had my daughter, and I was like, right, I need quick money. There's this quick course. I don't know if you've seen American TV ads where it's like, you're sitting on the couch and you're all alone. You want to know what your life's about. Come do this thing, this quick course, right? And I'm like, cool. So it was like nursing, and you get your foot in the door doing admin or whatever. And I was like, will be my life. And I remember going to my dad's house, and my stepmom was there, and she said to me, like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm preparing dinner for my kid. But she's like, no, what are you doing in your life right now? I was like, I'm nursing. She's like, no, you have completely dropped out of the communication and journalism course that you were doing. I see your blogs. I see the stuff you're doing with, like, I was working with a not-for-profit at the time, working with inner city kids and doing stuff with media. And she's like, you should be telling stories. Why are you not doing that? And I was like, because I got a kid now. I got to be responsible.
Got to make money.
But I went home and really thought about it, and I'm really thankful for her, because I literally, like, 2 weeks later dropped out and went back to my communication and journo course, and I've been in media for 6 years. Like, that is my true passion, is talking to people, hearing their stories. And so, yeah, she really got me, like, back on track. You can still be a parent and make money, but like, this is your whole life. Do you really want to be a nurse for your whole life, or do
you think you would have stayed in that world? Totally.
Do I think I would have stayed there?
Yeah.
Well, reluctantly,
like,
for sure.
Having that push from someone else.
I might have. Who knows? I was actually very good at taking blood, so, and not in like a vampire weird way, but like an actual medical way.
Yeah. Find that vein.
And I was like, I'll just do pathology and it'll be fine. Yeah. But that's not. I cannot stand. I'm a germaphobe. I cannot stand being in hospitals. I think if someone coughs, I'm like, oh my god, I'm dying. Like, I can't stand blood, so it wouldn't have been great.
Me too. My dad always told me not to breathe in hospitals.
You walk in and you don't breathe, and it's like, well, you can't.
At some point, you have to.
Yeah.
At your own risk.
I was gonna say, so you don't have a normal day job now, do you?
A normal day job? No, I am like
how do you
full
make it
entrepreneur.
Work?
Being an entrepreneur.
I'm curious, like, what do you do week to week? I know you're always on a call. Every time I talk to you, like, I've got 3 calls today. Like,
people think I'm like, just look, doing freelance, you feel like you're all over the place because you have to be to make money and to, like, that's your livelihood. So I've worked in media for almost 6 years, and I've had a consistent contract or job doing radio, producing TV, online, digital, social, whatever, right? Yeah. And I think for me, I launched Deck of Diversity in 22. Middle of 22, I was kind of realizing I wanted to do more of this, and I was picking up more workshops. And then 23 was like, okay, the workshops are kind of happening, but not as much as I'd like. I've got to do something else. So pulled on my media and producing background and was doing random contracts for people. And so 24 is really like my first real big year focusing in on me. I'm wrapping up a few freelance projects and, you know, putting it all in onto EYL and to Allies and Friends. And
what are these projects?
Oh, I mean, at the moment, I'm working with Media Diversity Australia. We're writing a reporting on race handbook.
So in the same field.
Yeah. So I'm kind of, you know, diversity has always been something that either personally affected me or professionally I was kind of thrown into. It's like, oh, you're the black girl. Can you go handle that? And I was kind of getting tired of doing my job and then this additional allyship, diversity, inclusion strategy hoo-ha. And it was like, let's formalize this. So if I'm going to do this, I want to pick the projects that I'm working on. I don't want to feel like I'm put on this project because I am black. I want to do it because it's something I want to do.
You resonate with it.
Absolutely. We're working on a documentary at the moment with a First Nation kindy and, you know, just different fun projects that's intertwine media and culture. Awesome. And I am always on a call.
10 calls a day.
Conversations have to be had.
Conversations have to be had. Yeah, money's going to be made.
We got to be part of one of those calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why when I'm on the phone to him, I'm like, hey, quick question. Can you do this? Okay, great. Got to go. Bye.
Yeah.
And was there, I don't know if we do want to speak about it, what you're doing with Siki?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, Siki, hey, Siki.
Previous guest we had on a few weeks ago. Shout out
Siki.
Siki.
Small world. Yeah, Siki, I met, so at the Impact Boom pitch night, a lady came up to me and she's like, hey, I think what you're doing is great. I have a friend. I think you should meet. Here's my number. I was like, cool. And by that stage, my feet were numb for wearing heels. I wanted to go home. So I hit her up in the new year after we came back from America and she was like, yeah, come meet my friend Siki. I'm like, cool. And this amazing human being walks in. I mean, also Renee, she's amazing. But Siki walks in the room and this amazing guy who's like, instantly I feel like he's my twin. Like we joke all the time. We're like having the same gut issues or we've got a headache or we're wearing the same outfit. Or like,
you guys are definitely aligned.
definitely aligned. So I think he's like my brother from another mother, literally. And he has the Music Roof, his business, which is built and grown, which is really inspiring to see how that is literally expanding across the state. And now he's got his other initiative, which is called I Believe in Me. And he's got a book, which is a children's book, and it's about self-belief, and it's, you know, working with black and brown women and making sure that they feel empowered. So he's brought me on the team with Renee, and we're going to be putting together some workshops and resources, and I can't speak too much on it, but yes,
we'll have to get Renee on next.
Yes.
To discuss. Everyone gives us a little bit.
To connect the dots.
Connect the dots. What is this thing? Yeah.
Like they won't tell us anything. What hobbies do you have outside of, like, is your life just all pushing this message? What do you do to chill out?
All day, every day. I'm just making protest signs. And
just this or taking your kids to gymnastics?
You know, it's the biggest decision at the end of the week is, do I have enough cash to go to Coles or Woolworths, or, you know, is it going to be Aldi this week?
You have to go to Aldi this week.
No, I was into Pilates a few weeks ago. That was really fun. Look, I have ADHD, so my hobbies come and go very quickly.
Yeah.
So my hyperfocus is all about this, but my hobbies will be like, all of a sudden I wanted to be like a influencer, like cook on Instagram, and I'd find these cute little recipes that I'd make CJ and my son Jax film me in the kitchen every Friday night, and would be like, okay guys, and it's all like ASMR sounds, and it's really cool, and I did 3 of them, and then that was it. So maybe I'll
How did they go? Did
post
they blow
them.
up?
I haven't posted them, like that's the thing. And
Apparently CJ was trying to get you into his clothing.
Oh yeah, trying to get you to sew, and you just
Sewing?
weren't into it.
no, like I can't.
Yeah. Didn't have the patience.
Like, don't ever. Like, sewing is so boring. I cannot. The only motivation
Can you
for me
even say
that day
with
was.
a pun?
He knows it. I'm like, okay, I'll leave you to your sewing. I've got to go. Unless there's motivation, like I was making my own pants, and that was kind of like the dopamine to finish the pants. But I don't want to sit down and sew. Sorry, babe.
No, I've been asking my girlfriend to teach me how to sew like a button onto pants for months, and then last night she was actually like, "Do you want to learn right now?" And I was like,
No, no, I don't.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, if it's not like when you want to do it, it's like no.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was like 10 p.m. when she asked me that. I was like, really?
Right. It's like, come on.
No.
What's your favorite thing about your travels in America? What's
the food.
The food?
Oh my gosh, the food.
I've heard people say the food there sucks.
And I am
food in LA is
upset
so good.
about that. Has anyone had authentic Mexican? Hello, so good. Has anybody had authentic soul food? You're missing out.
What do you think about the tipping culture?
Okay, well, obviously I got used to it living
weird
over
as an
there.
Aussie.
But my mom, when she would come over and visit me, she just gets so flustered with like tipping that she would just be like, I can't figure it out. I'll just leave $100. I'm like, you just made this person's half their rent. That's great. Or like we would go, I remember one time we were in Bali, and you know how there's like the back and forth negotiation of price or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And my mum just got a bit flustered, and she's like, they're like, say for instance, it was like $20, and she's like
30.
It's 10, and then they're like, no, 15. She's like 100, and they're like, no, you did it wrong. And she's like, can you just take it? Like, so yeah, definitely, I got used to it, and I relied on tips a lot. Like I did a lot of work in the hospitality industry, and you rely on those tips.
That. It's so weird how like if your restaurant's not busy, then you're not making anything.
Yeah,
if you work at a super busy restaurant, you could be rich.
And I worked at Wood Ranch. Next to CBS Studios at the Grove. Oh my God, I love the Grove at Christmas time in Muscat. And a lot of celebrities would come in, so all the waiters would be like, all right, it's showtime.
Put on your biggest smile, everybody.
Biggest smile,
All right, back to making a bit related. So do you reckon Expand Your Library will be hitting America?
Oh, why not? Like Logan said, dream big, right?
Dream big.
Yeah.
Who knows what's next?
Do TV stations here let you sort of take things overseas after a while? Do you have any idea about that?
I guess it depends on this whole process has taught me a lot, like even like seeing the ins and outs of like Bluey and who owns what and how that all works. So it kind of depends on the contract and your ownership and the collaboration process, I guess. I don't know if you license it, but I'm still learning in that whole process, but we can still have world domination somehow.
Yeah,
for sure.
Starting in America. I mean, any more positive stories that you would like to share with the world? Any advice?
Forgot to mention that I love your outfit.
Oh, thank
Very
you.
Nice and colourful.
Like, got a stressful text like 10 minutes before I was leaving, like, wear something cool. I'm like, oh, not cool. Wear all the colours possible.
You're cooler than me.
Usually I wear all black.
Probably don't tell women like 10 minutes beforehand.
Like at least
for an occasion.
A week's notice.
They need to like go through 3 different outfits and be like, no, not this one.
Your husband's in fashion, so don't have an excuse.
He is very fashionable. He's more fashionable than me, so that's even more stressful that you're like, wear something cool. I'm like, oh my God.
Is he going to dress you up for Allies and Friends maybe?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope to see more what is overalls.
Cows and other animals.
Cows and other, maybe
we got to include all
prints.
animals.
Inclusion of animal prints. But one thing I would like to say is that cultural diversity and diversity in its entirety, it doesn't have to be scary, but we do have to have self-reflection on where does it sit in us. So if at work you're being asked to think about it, but how are you thinking about it in your everyday life? So you may not have the understanding of lived experience, but I think if you can lead with compassion and kindness as much as you can every day to try to put yourself into other people's shoes to think about what they may be going through and how you can make a small little impact in someone's day. You just don't know what people are going through. And, being an ally is, you don't have to be marching down the street with a Black Lives Matter sign or whatever. You can literally be an ally, but just being kind to your peers, your colleagues, the stranger down the road, helping someone out. And I just think when you do those things, your children see those things. It's more than just saying it. You have to do it, be it, and live it. Be an ally and a friend.
Amazing.
Do you agree?
I agree. I was just going to say, but like on top of that, like with that, you don't have to feel bad. Like say like white people sometimes, it's becoming a thing to feel really guilty. Like you've done something wrong when you haven't. Like I think that's an issue as well.
You can't be feeling bad about it. Like I get where that you may feel bad about it, and obviously I don't have a lived experience of the other side, but I also don't always get it right. I've actually been cussed out multiple times for getting it wrong and thinking I'm doing, the good, well-meaning thing. But I just go back and re-educate and think about it, reflect, and then try again. And it's like, so try not to feel bad about it, and try not to go, oh, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to do nothing, because that doesn't help either. So just try, and it's a trial and error thing, and everybody's different, and don't clump groups of people together. Like one experience with me, someone else who looks like me may want, need, expect different things. So let's just all take each individual human connection as a new experience. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Wise words.
How much you have to pay to have that set at a school?
Millions of dollars.
To have a Broadway show.
The Broadway show. I think that's
Brought
the
to
next
your
thing
school.
is making a real Broadway show.
I mean, that would honestly probably go off.
Maybe that's our next thing after Allies and Friends.
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to you guys.
I'd love to act in it if there's ever an opportunity.
That's what it is, Ralph. You just want to act.
We should probably be in like the chorus, just the one
We'll be the backup
one of, like,
dancers.
20 voices, yeah. Trees in the background.
I'd love to be a tree.
Dancing
So good.
diversity trees, yeah.
I love that.
Honestly, I feel like that could be a good play idea. Like, because big ideas could be brought down into song and dance, and
This is copyrighted. Nobody can take it.
we
Yeah.
may even cut this part from the podcast.
I think we should.
Let's use this. But no, thank you so much,
Yeah,
Jenae,
thank
for
you.
coming on and sharing your story and gifting me my deck of diversity.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I hope you enjoy it, shuffle, and experience the world of diversity and inclusion. But no, I really appreciate you having me on here to, take care and time with my story. And also, I'm excited to work with you all over the next couple of months. I hope I don't irritate you too much.
Not at all. We're super excited. And where can people find you?
Yes, so please jump on our Instagram at expand_YL. We're also on Facebook, and our website is expandyourlibrary.com.au. And right now, it's all happening with Allies and Friends, so stay tuned and watch what's coming up.
It's going to be an amazing year, 2024. Looking forward to it.
Amen.
Thank you, Marty and Catalog Music, for letting us film here. Thank you, Raf, for being Raf. And thank you, me, for being me.
Thank you
That's
for
very
being.
Snoop Dogg of you.
And thank
Thank
to
you
all
for
the
being like
listeners.
Oprah.
Yeah.
You are.
No, thank you for everyone. Thank you to everyone for being yourself. As long as you're being your best self.
Be your best self. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.